Hey everybody, back today again with a different kind of video for me, and I welcome Sam St. John in. Great channel, check him out. If you haven't subscribed to him yet, please do. I was watching Larry Graves' Canadian Stud Muffin about 2 weeks ago, and they brought up the White Album, and Sam happened to say it was probably his least favorite at that time, and he took all kinds of crap in the chat, and
A
people
lot.
taking some cheap shots at him, and he withstood it. And I was in the peanut gallery there, and I said to him, Sam, we have to do a, worst to best Beatles songs from the White Album. I think would be an interesting video because I'm not enamored with it completely. I think it's in the middle of the pack of their discography. I put it eighth. Uh, I re-listened to it, and there are some amazing tracks on it. I'm not going to lie, but overall it's disjointed and it's a little avant-garde for my taste in spots. Definitely not as melodic as I like the Beatles to be, and musically, it's hit and miss. It's got some fantastic stuff in it, obviously. So great to have you here, Sam. If you don't know about Sam St. John, please check his channel out. He and I have done Tom Petty and the band videos. Check them out as well. Had a great time doing them. The band we did with Glenn Kellaway from the basement. And of course, Sam's into the Americana. He loves the Beach Boys, the Monkees, the Beatles, Dylan, John Prine. Go right down the list. All the stuff I like pretty much. So check his channel out. Great to have you here, Sam. This is going to be a dandy, as they say, gone
A
down from
dandy.
30 down to one. And any opening comments on the album in general before we dive in?
Well, thanks for the invite. Yeah, like Rich was saying a couple weeks ago, I've had the great privilege and honor, Larry, give him his ego a little bit. But we were talking about Beatles albums just in the chats, and somebody was talking about the White Album, and I made the big mistake of saying, well, the White Album isn't exactly my favorite. It's actually at the bottom of the list for me as of this very moment in time. However, I will say, just like I did in the live chat, that the Beatles are my favorite band, as they are, I'm sure, most people's that like any kind of rock and roll. They laid the foundation for just about everything that came after them. But like I told Rich before we started filming here, one of those albums has to go at the bottom, and the White Album at this point in time is at the bottom of the list. However, I just showed Rich that I did just purchase this behemoth of a box set, so I haven't delved into it other than the Ussr demos. So who knows, maybe after I listen to some of these tracks it might jump up. That's what happened with Let It Be, with the Let It Be box set. Let It Be went up probably 2 or 3 notches.
That can happen.
And
Yeah.
Talk to me in a couple of weeks and I'll get back to you on where the White Album stands at that point.
Plus you're sporting the shirt from the rooftop.
Yeah, Let It Be. This is a Christmas gift from a friend of mine. He got the record. He couldn't wear the shirt, so he said, hey, do you want it? I said, yeah, I'll take it. So
yeah,
it's still the Beatles. It's just a year later.
Exactly. So I just don't see people out there that think this is the number one album. Everybody's entitled to their opinion, but if you don't think there's some bloated filler on here, then I don't know where you're coming from. Granted, it's adventurous and daring, and they're stretching out and this and that, but the bottom line to me, are the songs any good? And in most cases, yes, but there's some songs that are just in here for whatever reason. And let's get into it. Let's start with number 30. You're going to go first, Sam, and we'll just go back and forth and see how we do.
Well, number 30, it's probably everybody's least favorite song on the album. For the majority, is Revolution number 9. To call it a song is an overstatement. It's essentially, it sounds like something that some college student went into his dorm room. If it was today, he went into his dorm room and put a bunch of sounds together on his computer, and there you go. But of course, at the time it was, very, very different. I mean, there's still nothing really that sounds like it these days. It's just a bunch of radio recordings and tape loops and reverse sounds from previous versions of the song Revolution. I think George Martin is on there speaking. Yoko is on there. And it was kind of showing the direction that John and Yoko were going to go in their solo career. I know Paul kind of had a little bit of a hand in it, but it's not a song. It's just a sound collage. It's kind of creepy. And when I listen to the full album, I'm not going to skip it, but I'm not just putting on the headphones and saying, I want to hear this today.
Right.
This is not going to happen. So that's number 30.
Yeah, I agree. It's number 30 for me too. I couldn't get around it. It's part of that avant-garde garbage that I just don't vibe to. I don't like it. Experimental noise and just crap. So that's all I have to say. I don't want to delve into it too much. It is a song that I may skip, although I repeated. I listened to the album in full the last couple of weeks, and I didn't skip it because I wanted to give it a fair shot again.
Mhm.
But it hasn't changed. It's still the last ranked song on my list.
Yeah, I agree. And again, song is a strong word.
Very cool. What do you got at 29?
29, probably again, not much of a surprise. It's a little fragment of a song called Wild Honey Pie. A lot of people, this is kind of their order from other videos like this that I've seen. You've got Revolution 9 and then Wild Honey Pie. It's kind of a taste of what would become part of like Let It Be, which Let It Be sessions were after this in January of '69. Just like a little fragment, kind of like it was part of a jam or something. And they're just repeating Honey Pie, and there's not a whole lot to it. There's no depth. So that's 29.
I couldn't sum it up any better. It's also 29 on my list. It's just utter nonsense. I say, why bother even putting it on the album? But they stuffed it with a little bit of jamming around. And when we saw the Let It Be film, you could see them, Ringo and Paul, playing around a lot too on some songs. And I guess they were doing it back in the White Album days too, and they decided to stick it on the album because it was a double album. I don't like it. Never will.
Yeah, I agree.
And this is the kind of stuff that prevents the White Album for me from being in the upper echelon, because it's full of little crap like this.
Which you can say the same for Let It Be as well, and that's why
exactly
Let It Be is slowly starting to get another resurgence with the new movie and everything. But that's the reason it'll never be an Abbey Road or Sgt. Pepper.
That's right. All right, 28.
28. I know some people call this their favorite George Harrison song. It's a long, and it's just one of those songs. It's definitely one that was inspired while they were in India. I mean, that we probably should have said that before too. This, a big majority of this album was recorded or written while they were in India with the Maharishi.
Right.
So George was really prolific during this time, and I would say probably John too, probably got the most out of the Indian trip. But again, it's never a song that I liked a lot. It's just very slow and kind of dirgy, and it's not one that I ever really think about when I'm thinking about George's Beatles songs. Like it doesn't make the top 10 for his songs.
No, I have it slightly higher than you, but not much. I'm not a fan of it either. My number 28 is Everybody's Got Something to Hide Except Me and My Monkey. It's just not something that I like. I know it rocks a little bit instrumentally, but to me, it's nothing more than a drug-infused rant. That's what it comes across to me. Not very melodic again, and not deep in the lyrics. I dismiss it and put it at number 28.
Yeah, I don't blame you.
All right, 27.
27, I've got Sexy Sadie, which is again, it's not one that I liked a whole lot when I first heard the album. It's not one that I think about much anymore. I mean, I know it has some connotations about some affairs that were happening over in India while they were on the trip with the Maharishi, and it has its own little meaning behind it. And there was thought put into the lyrics, but it's just never one that's really stood out to me. It's a John song, and usually John songs fall in the lower half of the Beatles canon for me versus Paul, who's my favorite Beatle. So that's my number 27.
My number 27 is Honey Pie. This is Paul, kind of it sounds like something out of a different era in the 20s, vaudeville-ish. It's kind of lightweight. It just doesn't work as a Beatles song in 1968 for me. So I put it at 27.
27. All right, and 26, you just mentioned it a song ago. It's Everybody Had Something to Hide, except for Me and My Monkey. And I guess to add to what you were saying, yeah, it rocks. And I think it's kind of one of those songs where he wrote it when he was just starting to date Yoko Ono, or having an affair with Yoko Ono, I should say, at that time.
Yeah.
It was during these sessions that she started coming along to the studio, and
Right.
part of the start, the beginning of the end for the Beatles was, I would say, during the White Album sessions. Not that Yoko was the factor behind that. She was just, something that was pulling John away from the Beatles, and he was more obsessed with loving her than he was loving the music. So yeah, there's not much to say about it. It's not one that I would ever recommend somebody to start with.
No. All right. My number 26 is Long, Long, Long. You had it previously. It's a song that just lays there flat for me. There's no kind of nothing that grabs me and pulls me in. I don't know how to explain it.
Yeah.
It's just nothing to it. I mean,
yeah.
Too bad for George.
Yeah, it's got some kind of buzzy sounding guitar in it too, and it's this is the same guy that writes While My Guitar Gently Weeps, or he later he writes Something. I mean, I think he had more melody in him than that song.
And the vocals kind of uninspired. It's just kind of lazy to me.
Yeah.
26.
Yeah. All right, 25 is The Continuing Story of Bungalow Bill, which is the only Beatles song with a co-lead vocal, and it's by none other than Yoko Ono for a line. And it's one of those songs where all the Beatles are singing at the beginning. You hear Ringo singing with him. You always know when Ringo's singing background because his low voice comes in, which I don't mind. I kind of enjoy when all the Beatles sing at once. But I think it was about a children's character, Bungalow Bill,
right?
Something like that, and kind of about him poaching a tiger. It's just a weird song. Again, it's like you said earlier, kind of feels like John was just in India smoking a little too much dope or worse. Exactly. And decided to write the song, and let's throw Yoko's voice on it too, which that really makes it better.
That hurts. That'll take it down another notch.
Yeah. So it's not quite Me and My Monkey status for me, but it's one after it.
Right. My number 25 is the last song on the album, I guess, Good Night. Kind of hokey to me. It's just tacked on at the end, bizarre. I like Ringo's vocals usually, but I don't know. It's kind of I don't know what the word I'm looking for is. I think hokey is a good one.
That's a good word.
Yeah. It doesn't have a lot of substance. There's no substance to it. It's not god awful, but it's not good either. For me.
I mean, to use that as he doesn't sing it. I don't think he's ever sang it live. And he's been touring now as 30 plus years as the All-Star Band, and has never sung it live.
Yeah, it was just tacked on, I guess, as a cutesy move to end the album. Good night, that kind of thing.
And it's a good counterbalance after Revolution 9, which is just before it. Which it comes as a welcome song after you hear Revolution 9, and you can calm down, because you're scared out of your mind the first time you hear Revolution number 9.
Yeah.
Then you have this lullaby.
I know.
Yeah. My number 24 is Savoy Truffle, a George Harrison tune, which he wrote about his best friend Eric Clapton, who loved the sweets, and he's just singing about all these candies, and it's kind of a novelty kind of song, but he kind of wrote it to kind of show Eric Clapton that he could write the song. And yeah, not much to say, but I think he did sing it later, George, and the few times that he toured. But it's kind of like Long, Long, Long. I mean, it's just it's not up there for me.
My number 24 is one you had previously, Sexy Sadie. You had it at 27. I have it at 24. This again, like you said, it's a direct shot at the Maharishi, who evidently was coming on to Mia Farrow and their retreat, and to India, and it's okay, but it's just nothing to write home about. Again, it's filler to me.
Yeah.
It would never sustain on a quality album. I mean, it's just thrown in there for John was feeling what he was feeling. He wrote it in a song and they put it on the album. What can I say?
Yeah. That's another thing. A lot of these songs on this album, a lot of times you just had one Beatle in the studio.
That's true too.
It was almost, some people call it 4 solo albums. And then of course, Ringo quit at the beginning of the session. So yeah, you're not going to get the best work when a band is not banded together.
I think I saw the stat somewhere. I forget whose video it was on. 16 of the 30 songs had all 4 Beatles playing on them. So, it's just
50% almost.
Right. So a lot of them were, 2-man shows, 3-man shows, but all 4, only 16.
I believe it. Actually, that sounds like there should be more, honestly.
Right.
Without the 4.
I know.
Yeah. 23, back-to-back George Harrison song, Piggies is number 23, which the first time I heard it, I thought it was ridiculous. I first heard this album when I was in 9th grade, because I bought all the CDs when they came out in 2009. It was the first time that I listened to the full Beatles catalog.
Yeah.
And of course, this is one of those songs that Charles Manson took as part of his manifesto, if you will. Kind of use like the Animal Farm references and that sort of thing. It's a great, the story behind it is great. With the harpsichord playing.
Right.
And then I think the line about eating their bacon, that was either from his mother, George's mother, or from Ringo's mother. I can't remember who mentions it, but the song about piggies eating their bacon. I think it's a fun line. So it's an okay song, but again, George has so much better in him. Just listen to All Things Must Pass, and he's got better than Piggies. So,
right. My number 23 is Savoy Truffle. You mentioned it
just before.
Yeah, close. Again, you already talked about the topic about him writing about Eric Clapton's Sweet Tooth, and I do like the horns on it a little bit. It's an offbeat song for me, and this is a perfect place for it in the ranking for me. 23.
Now, I will say going in from 22 on, these are songs like that I will, kind of crave to listen to. So those first, I guess, 30 to 23 were not that difficult, but from this point onward, it was fairly difficult, with the exception of probably the top 5. So with that being said, 22 out of all those, my least favorite is going to be Glass Onion, which is a great tune, a great opener. I love the drums at the beginning. It's like ba-dum, ba-dum,
Yeah.
But I thought was so cool when I was listening to it when I was younger was, and especially not knowing a lot of the Beatles history, was hearing all the songs mentioned in Glass Onion. He says, told you about Strawberry Fields.
Yeah.
He talks about the Walrus was Paul. Lady Madonna trying to make ends meet. He mentions that. But what's so funny is I'm like, oh, he's mentioning all these songs, but in reality, those were all brand new songs. Lady Madonna had just come out as a single that same year, and the other 2 were just on Sgt. Pepper.
Right.
Or Strawberry Fields was on Magical Mystery Tour, but it wasn't like he was going way back in the catalog.
Yeah.
He was mentioning these newer songs. And I believe also, what is it, on Savoy Truffle, George mentions Obla-Di Obla-Da on it. And it's just neat that they were throwing out these songs that they had written during these sessions and kind of throwing them into the mix. But Glass Onion is one of those songs that people have been trying to figure out for years, because in Magical Mystery Tour, John's dressed up like the walrus, but then in this, he says, "Here's another clue for you all: the walrus was Paul," just to mess people's minds up. So it's fun. It's one that I'll hum every now and then.
Yeah, I have it quite a bit higher on my list. I divided this up into 10 weak songs, 10 mediocre songs, and 10 really strong songs. That's the way I looked at this album, and it's sort of the upper echelon of the mediocre for me. There's a lot to like about it, though. I like the references that you mentioned.
Yeah.
Residential. What's the word I'm looking for? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, they're talking about themselves and giving themselves a little importance, self-importance.
Yeah. Yeah.
My number 22 is Martha, My Dear by Paul. I
Mm.
like the melody on this piano-driven tune, written about Paul's sheepdog, I believe. But again, it's nothing monumental. It falls into my middle of the pack realm.
That
But
one's much higher up for me.
I
Yeah.
don't dislike it, but it's just when I was revisiting the album, this is where I placed it. It could easily be about 5 slots higher, but today, 22.
Yeah. This week, that's where it is. Yeah.
That's where it's at.
21, another John Lennon song. I'm So Tired. Just one of those songs. I mean, he was burnt out. You know, the Beatles, they had come off a huge year. I mean, 1967, they had, you know, they had the big single with Strawberry Fields and Penny Lane. Then they put out Sgt. Pepper. Then they are filming the Magical Mystery Tour movie. They do their TV special where they sing All You Need Is Love.
Yeah.
They record all these other singles that end up becoming the Magical Mystery Tour album. And then they go into, you know, this year at 68, they go to India. They put out 2 albums worth of material. And then just after this, they're going to put out, you know, the Yellow Submarine Project. So John's burnout. He's probably, you know, at this point, he's starting to get into some heroin.
Yeah.
And it sounds like it, you know, the song, you can just kind of imagine him just, you know, curl up in his room, just in the dark. And it's a darker song, but I think it's neat. He kind of builds up, you know, the vocals with Paul. It's good harmony at the end. It kind of bangs out, and I mean, it's a good song. But
I do like
it's
it.
right in the middle of the pack.
Yeah, I like it. 21 for me is Piggies. You already mentioned it at number 23. Sort of a silly, humorous, social satire. It's got the squeals and the grunts in it there, and the bacon comment. And I do like the harpsichord, though. It's kind of cool.
Yeah.
You know, musically, it's got that, but it's another throwaway song. What else do I have down here? I don't know. That's pretty much it. It does have that Manson tie-in as well. I believe they wrote pig and blood on the walls when they killed those folks. And
Yeah.
you know, they're listening to this album with Helter Skelter and Piggies and stuff like that. So,
Yeah.
and they turned it into I mean, on the album, it's kind of a fun, silly song, but it's got that darker background story. So,
Right.
21. So from here on out, for me, is better material. I sort of, from 21 to 30 is the stuff that I could dismiss, and then from here on out, I had to come up with a good way to rank these, because they all have attributes to them that I like.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I don't know, because there's always also videos of people that try to put the White Album into a single LP. I could even have seen it as a 3-sided album, because like you're saying, like we've knocked out about 8 or 9 songs here. If they would have done a 3-sided and then had the 4th side blank, even that, it could have been higher up in my ranking of the Beatles albums.
Yeah, I noticed a lot of our, you know, lower echelon songs are pretty much the same, just maybe in a little different order. The only one that I have buried here is Martha, My Dear, that I think you like.
And Glass Onion.
And Glass Onion.
Yeah. And I should make a point, at this point, with the exception of, you know, Wild Honey Pie, which is kind of, you know, I kind of associate all the members. I have yet to mention a Paul McCartney song. So that just kind of goes to show what kind of role Paul is taking at this point, and his material is starting to really go above and beyond.
I think so too. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. With that being said, top 20.
Yep.
And I will start it off with John's ballad, Julia, which a lot of people will put as one of the better John Lennon songs. And I know this is one of those songs that while he was in India, Donovan taught him and the Beatles different chord patterns and picking signatures.
Right.
And of course, this is about John's mother, Julia. It's a beautiful song. A lot of people say that like this was one of those songs where like John was inspired by Paul, like Paul's writing. Because if Paul were to sing this, you're like, oh, that could be a Paul McCartney song.
Easy.
Because it's kind of a love song, even though it's not about a romantic love. It's about his mother.
Yes.
McCartney could have written a song like this and did, and then to switch it up, you take a song like Helter Skelter, which is more of like a John song, and Paul is leading the charge with that. So they're obviously still inspiring each other, even this late in their career.
Yeah. Julia is a real strong song for me. I have it way up.
Mm-hmm.
But it's my kind of song. It's a song I really like. I like love songs, and it's a beauty. My number 20 is the continuing story of Bungalow Bill, which
that's a little bit higher. Yeah.
A little bit higher than where you had it, but it's got that sing-along quality, which I enjoy, about a guy who killed a tiger. It's classic filler, though. It's not really substantial. Yoko's can be heard on this one as well, which you mentioned. That's always going to knock it down a notch for me because I have no respect for her music ability at all. Sorry, Yoko.
Yeah.
She was along for the ride. We all know that.
Yeah. And she does seem like a very nice person. I'm
not criticizing that. It's just, John felt obligated to give her a little, shot at showing what she can do, and it just doesn't work for me. The screaming and the high pitched stuff, and I wouldn't say it's cringy, but it's just irritating,
Yeah. At the very least, she did, sing, so to speak, on this song, so she's not screaming. So thankfully, we don't have that on a Beatles album.
We'll give her props for that.
Yeah, for honing it in a little bit.
All right, 19.
19. And it's interesting that neither of us have mentioned this song yet because it is one of the shorter songs. It's Why Don't We Do It in the Road?
Wow.
Which that's my first McCartney song mentioned, my first solo McCartney song mentioned. Apparently it was inspired by some tape that he took of a couple of monkeys having a good time out on the road. And if you watch the Get Back movie, you'll see a clip of that home video. And it's the home videos themselves that are shown from India are beautiful shots. And it's like, it was professionally done. But I think McCartney just, when he was inspired by it, he was like, why can't love be
right,
free and in front of everybody? So that was the point. But I love the sound of the drums, just the intro. Doom, doom, doom. It's kind of animalistic, kind of like tribal a little bit, and it's a killer vocal. He goes really high with his Little Richard scream that he has, and I think it's a great tune.
I do too, and I have it at number 19. So we hit on one right on
cool.
the money. Yep. I love the way Paul stretches his vocals on this one too. It's strong. If you didn't know it was Paul, it has it has some soul in it. It has some oomph behind it, and it is a jamming song for a little piece of music. This is the kind of little filler stuff that I don't mind because it works.
Yeah,
where some of the other stuff before that we mentioned has no place on the album, but I do like this.
Well, because this is almost like it's written as this song. The other songs that they have, like Wild Honey Pie, it's like they were taken from the middle of something else and just thrown in there.
And this particular one only has Paul and Ringo on it. George and John were nowhere to be found. I like it at number 19 for me.
Yeah, cool. Number 18 is Cry Baby Cry.
Wow, you're killing me, man. That's what I have too. Go ahead.
Really?
Yeah,
that's fantastic. It's one of those songs where it's a John and Paul song where at the end there's a fragment of a Paul song called Can You Take Me Back? And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, this is the song. Yeah, it's the song just before Revolution number 9. So it's kind of like, this is one of the weirder songs on the album too.
Yeah.
But it's got some really cool harmony. But really the reason it's this high up is actually I love the little coda at the end of Paul singing, Can you take me back where I came from?
Right.
And actually, I remember, I haven't thought about this till just now. I remember when I was younger, I tried to write, like I tried to finish that song, and wrote more lyrics to it, to
Cool.
that tune. I don't know what happened to that piece of paper, but it's somewhere in one of those old notebooks that I have, and I try to finish that little fragment. And I think it might have been finished at one point. I think there is a longer version of that somewhere.
You need to dig that out, man, and check it
I need
out.
to dig it out. It's probably trash because I would have been 14, 15, but
Yeah,
yeah, it's always been a song that I like. I think because of that little ending.
I like it too. It's at 18, so the back-to-back here, 18 and 19, we have exactly the same, which is always cool. It's kind of unremarkable, but it flows nicely for me, and I like the coda as well. That's what I wrote down here.
Yeah,
It's coda. So for the exact same reasons that you mentioned it, I have it at 18.
very neat. All right, 17. I remember when I got the album, when I bought the album and saw that this song was on there, I was really excited, but I didn't understand why it had the number one behind it. And because I first heard a lot of the Beatles songs through their Rock Band game that came out on Xbox,
Okay. Yeah.
and Revolution was on it. And so I was like, oh, this is the album that has Revolution on it. So like that was one of the main reasons I bought the White Album. But then I listened to it and it's Revolution number one, which is an earlier take. Which, once I appreciated it as its own song, I really liked it. A lot of people, to use the word hokey again, people thought it was hokey with like the shooby doo wop kind of 50s vocalizations behind it, which I think is cool because I like 50s music.
Yeah, me too.
And it's acoustic. It's got the slower electric guitar solo, but everything else essentially is acoustic. And I just think it's really great. You can hear all three of the Beatles harmonizing with it, and I think it's one of those songs that you were mentioning earlier where all four of them are on it. I may be wrong, but
I think they are. Yeah,
I like this take quite a bit.
I like it too. It's in my top 10, so it'll come later. I really like it a lot too. Of course, the single Revolution is one of my favorite Beatles songs. It's just the blaring beginning and just, I think
The scream,
it kicks butt, man. It's a great song.
Yeah.
And this acoustic version I like too, but not quite as strong as I like the hit single. Speaking of singles, they released Hey Jude and Revolution as singles, and Lady Madonna in '68 as well. But none of these 30 songs were released as a single. I mean, they weren't hits.
Yeah.
On AM radio or that type of thing. So it's unusual because are there any other Beatle albums where they didn't have at least a tune or two that were singles or hits?
Well, a lot of what the Beatles did was a lot of times they intentionally put out singles that weren't on albums for sales. I mean, like Sgt. Pepper, none of those songs.
None of those were either. You're right.
Rubber Soul wasn't. Revolver had like Eleanor Rigby, and even with like Let It Be, like the versions of Let It Be, Get Back that were released were different versions.
Yeah.
And even like Love Me Do was a different version. One of them had Ringo, one of them had a session guy. Yeah.
But Abbey Road had, Here Comes the Sun and Come Together.
Yeah, and something.
Something.
Those were all three number one hits.
They were all hits.
Yeah.
So I guess it's par for the course with some exceptions, but
yeah.
What am I up to? 17?
That was Revolution 1 was my 17.
Yeah, my 17 is when you had at 21. I'm So Tired.
Oh, okay.
As a fellow insomniac, I kind of like this song a little bit. John missing Yoko, evidently on the retreat. She was not there, right? So he's
he was still with Cynthia at that point. She was on the retreat.
Right. He's exhausted. He's upset. He can't get any rest and so forth. And the song works for me. I kind of like it a lot.
Yeah.
Just his voice, his vocal, the things he's talking about. He does sound a little drugged out.
Yeah.
But, I guess in his downtime, he was experimenting with all the hard stuff. So,
yeah. But again, like I mentioned earlier, toward the end, like just that I gave you everything I got for a little peace of mind. That's a killer.
It is
vocal.
Yep.
Yeah. All right.
17 is that? Let's go to 16. What do we have there?
16, you had this one further back. I don't remember what number you had it, but it's Honey Pie, the McCartney song, which I love the McCartney like vaudeville 1920s style songs, like When I'm 64, this song, even Lady Madonna to an extent. It's kind of like that, but it's just Paul McCartney as a vocalist is incredibly underrated. I mean, he could do so many things with his voice, and even still, I mean, even in his older age, he'll still sing a song like in full falsetto and then sing another one, bring in his bass register. And
oh, he is talented with that. Yeah,
it's just a great song. Like the intro, you know, she was a working girl, and then like later he kind of speaks to like the megaphone, you know, now she's hit the big time.
yeah.
I think it's great. And then boom, boom, boom. Like it's just a fun song. It definitely paints a picture like you imagine yourself in like this like smoky 1920s show. You know, it's in black and white, but
I've
always loved
the dancing girls coming in and
yeah, it's very very Looney Tunes. Even you can think about so many Looney Tunes episodes to go along with it. But I've always loved it. I love the piano. And I love how he kind of says, you know, I like this kind of hot kind of music. Like he goes really high in this falsetto, but it's a fun song, so I've always liked it. Yeah,
he is like, that's a good point you raise about changing the inflection of his voice, and even some of the songs that are higher up on my, like Rocky Raccoon, he does all the different little characters and stuff, and I like that too. And Rocky said, oh, it's only a match, you know, he's doing the doctor and the different characters in there, and
then his country intro.
Yes. All right, my number 16 is Mother Nature's Son, another Paul tune. A nice acoustic number here. I like, beautifully sung, played, melodic as hell. You know, I've seen this song take some shots on other people's lists, but I kind of like it. You know, recommendation for me on this one, this song. Don't skip it. I think it is better than advertised.
Oh yeah, it's way up there for me too.
Oh, you like it a lot? Okay.
Yeah. I'll mention it later.
I like the acoustic and the melodic tone of it. Works.
Yeah, it does. Paul's, again, another underrated aspect is him as just a guitar player. He's a killer guitar player.
Yeah.
Now
we're into the upper half of the album. We're at 15. So
yeah, number 15 is probably John's Scorcher on the album. It's Your Blues, which of course he also did. This is one of those few songs where he did it solo on the few times that he sang live after the Beatles or during the Beatles, because he did this as a part of the Dirty Mac on the Rolling Stones Rock and Roll Circus with Keith Richards and Eric Clapton. It's a simple blues song. I think that originally it was done in a much different style, and I think it might have been Paul that said, let's make it more of a blues song. But it's one of those songs that really shows John as a singer and how good he was at singing. Just he could have put out a full blues album, I think. You know, and he was just, you know, some guy from Liverpool, you know, a white English musician, that he could sing the blues because he had, you know, some struggles growing up, and even, you know, through the Beatles with his drug abuse that made him, you know, legit to sing the blues. So I think it was kind of a tongue-in-cheek song when it was written, but it stands alone as a blues song to me.
Yeah, I have it a couple spots higher. I like it too. My number 15 is the other Ringo song, Don't Pass Me By. I like the country vibe of this song. It's a sing-along song, which is enjoyable. Got a fiddle in there as well. It just makes you feel good listening to it. It's appealing. Those are my reasons. 15.
Yeah. 14, probably 10 years ago, this would have been a little bit higher up, but now it's pushed its way back. And I think part of it's just overuse. And that's the song Birthday. You hear the song all the time. I mean, I've gotten several birthday cards because people know I like the Beatles with that line on it. I've gotten, you know, people will text me that song on my birthday. And I think it was written kind of in the studio as kind of just having fun.
Yeah.
And you have Yoko on the back. I think you have some of the wives are on the background of the track. I think Different people from the studio were on it.
Yep.
Just simple song, not much to it, and it's often done live. I think Paul actually did it for Ringo. I think when Ringo turned 70, Paul made a surprise appearance at one of his shows and sang it for him, which is cool. So yeah, it's number 14.
Well, we're in complete agreement again. I have it at 14 as well.
Hey,
That it has that rousing killer drum beat, just jamming. It is kind of a throwaway song, but I always liked it going back to when it came out. They used to play this occasionally. You'd hear it on the radio, and fun song. And we're going to a party, and the hand claps. It's got everything in it. I like it a lot.
It's fun.
It is fun. It's not, earth shattering by any means, but it's fun. It sounds like the Beatles, and that's what I like.
Yeah. Number 13. Several people I know call this one of their favorite songs on the album. I want to say, don't quote me, but I think Jeff Witcher calls this his favorite song on this album, and that's "Happiness Is a Warm Gun."
Wow.
Which again, I had trouble, and again, we're getting to the point now where top 13.
Yeah.
These songs are so interchangeable at this point, they're just so good.
Right.
But kind of a patchwork quilts amount of material. It's almost like 3 different songs.
Yes.
It starts off, with kind of slow, she's not a girl who misses much. And then Mother Superior jumped the gun. He kind of throws that little bit in, and then it breaks into the actual "Happiness Is a Warm Gun" segment, which is kind of like almost like an early like Motown song where, it's kind of like, "When I hold you in my arms," like he's kind of like how those old Motown guys, you'd have like the guy come to the front and like give like an interlude, and then they finish the song. And I think that's kind of them going back to their love of Motown and African American music of the 50s. So it's a killer song. I love it.
I like it too. I have it coming up in a few, just outside the top 10 for me, but I do like it. Number 13 is "Glass Onion." You had it earlier.
Oh, wow.
I have it at 13. It's kind of a psyche, rocky kind of blues. It's got a little bit of everything in it. The hidden meanings in the lyrics, a lot of references, like we talked about, to the other Beatles songs, "Strawberry Fields," "I Am the Walrus," "Fool on the Hill," all that good stuff. So I had to put it towards the top of my middle section here.
Yeah.
It's not a top 10er, so just outside.
Cool.
Lucky 13.
All right. We're getting close here.
Yeah.
Number 12. This is probably going to be a shock to people, but I love this song. And I mean, it shouldn't be a shock at this point because I haven't mentioned the song yet, but it's "Good Night" is my number 12.
You love it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's always one that I really liked, and I actually am kind of disappointed that Ringo doesn't sing it live. It was written as a lullaby for John's son Julian, I believe, and because it's a Lennon McCartney track, and it's a beautiful orchestration. George Martin really makes it pretty, and actually on the White Album release, we kind of got a second wind when they played when the release from that album was put out. With the harmony was very different with all the Beatles on it, and of course the finished product, it was just Ringo with the orchestra. So Ringo's doing some crooning on it, and I just think it's a really pretty song. I think it's a clever way to end the album. And again, it's a good counterbalance to Revolution Number 9, which rips your ears off for 8 minutes beforehand. So it's number 12. I love Ringo. I mean,
yeah,
he's a Beatle,
Yes. And it's good when he does have a song on the album that they let him sing. I mean,
yeah,
I enjoy that too. I like the other one better though. What was the song I liked?
Don't Pass Me By.
Don't Pass Me By. It just works for me better, but I can see what you're saying. You make good points. Yeah. Number 12 for me is "Your Blues." You had it earlier. Very raw, stripped down kind of blues. It rocks hard at points. If I ain't dead already, girl, you know the reason why. A little dark lyric there. I mean,
yeah,
it's It's solid. It's a stretch for the Beatles. It doesn't have the usual,
Yeah,
you know, Beatles quote unquote sound to it, but
yeah.
it's strong. And it just missed my top 10. So I like it.
And I forgot to mention he does mention Bob Dylan in the song with just like Dylan's Mr. Jones from Ballad of a Thin Man.
Right.
So they were soaking up everything Dylan put out and vice versa. They were all soaking each other's music up at that point. So yeah.
Good stuff. Yep. All right. Number 11.
Number 11. This one just didn't make the top 10. It's another John ballad. It's the second song on the album. It's Dear Prudence.
Ooh.
Is number 11. Again, another that a lot of people consider one of John's best. I remember specifically when when I first learned the song, my best friend at the time and I were both playing guitar together, and we were both trying to figure out this song and helping each other out of like how does it go, and just I remember playing it in his bedroom back and forth with the song and playing guitars together. And it was one of my early dips into finger picking on guitar, was trying to learn this song. And it's another one of those songs that, Donovan kind of helped with the styling of it. And it's about, Prudence Farrow, Mia Farrow's sister from the India trip, and how she wouldn't come out to join them on their meals, or like the sessions with the Maharishi. And like, kind of again, kind of another tongue-in-cheek song, but really beautiful how it ends. Just
It's a beauty. Yeah.
it's a beautiful song, but it didn't quite make the top 10 for me.
I like how Donovan's very influential at this time too. I mean, he's on the retreat with him, obviously, and
Yeah.
they're picking up things from him because he was a talented guy. I thought he would have a bigger career, Donovan. I mean, there's some nice stuff that he does, but he sort of petered out by the end of the 60s. He wasn't doing much.
Yeah.
Not sure the reasons why, quite frankly, but you go back and listen to his stuff from about 65 to 68, maybe. Very strong.
Mhm. Yeah.
And my one that sits right outside the top 10, number 11, Happiness is a Warm Gun. The title what I understand, the title was taken from an article in an NRA magazine. Very surreal, kind of druggy. There's a lot of acid and heroin in this song, as far as I'm concerned. It changes tempo, which you mentioned several times. It's out there, but if you go with it and take it for what it's worth, it's a pretty strong song, and it's representative of what where John was musically and in his life at that time. I like what you said also about the Motown thing, about
Mhm.
I hold you in my, he's
Mhm.
all over the
Yeah.
place. But again, he could have been doing some major drugs and that just popped in his head and he threw it in the song, and
Mhm.
we got Happiness as a Warm Gun. So
Yeah.
it just missed my top 10.
Which is kind of an ironic song, as the Beatles were promoting, peace and love and all that. And he talks about happiness being a warm gun.
I know that's the thing too, that dichotomy there of why use the gun reference, and they're all about sunshine pop for the most part up until this point.
Yeah.
Even
Yeah.
Sergeant Pepper's is a pretty positive summer of love kind of psychedelic album in a way, but
Yeah. Yeah.
this stuff, there's some dark stuff on here. Maybe that's
I
why
agree.
Charlie Manson liked it so much. I
Could
don't know.
be. Yeah.
Top 10 time.
Top 10, folks. Here we go. No judgment here.
No, none at all.
Number 10, and again, all these songs tomorrow can be a different order.
Yeah.
But number 10, it's still a live staple for Paul McCartney. Possibly the Beatles' heaviest song. It's Helter Skelter. Again, the reason it's probably number 10 for me is just oversaturation, because I've seen McCartney play it live. When I was in middle and high school, I'd played this song all the time because it was a rocker, and like at that point I was really listening to like the stuff on like classic rock radio, and this was one of those songs that they would play on classic rock radio. But it's got the great ending with Ringo saying he's got blisters on his fingers just from killing it, and they had done so many takes. And I know there's a version that still hasn't been released officially where it's 30 minutes or something like that of them just jamming out. Great guitar work by Paul too. I mean, I think Paul's playing most of the lead on this song, just really crunchy. And a lot of people will say, maybe early start to heavy metal, this song.
I think so too.
So again, just another one of those instances where the Beatles put their toe in all sorts of different water. And I mean, it's a killer track. It's a rocker. It shows that the Beatles aren't just a pop band.
Right. And that's what they were going for too. They wanted to stretch out. I have it at number 10 too. So that's the fourth
Oh,
time
fun.
right on the money. I had to put it in the top 10 and it landed at 10. Loud, bombastic, kind of abrasive, like you said, bits of heavy metal in there, connected to the Manson debacle, which would happen a year later. So it had to make my list pretty high. I just like some of those other little ballads a little bit better. You'll see later when we get to our the top of the list, but nonetheless, great song. Number 10.
And there's a great version also by U2 on
Yes,
the Rattle and Hum album.
that's a
It's
good
a
one.
great intro with Bono saying, "This is a song Charles Manson stole from the Beatles. We're stealing it back." Which is a
Yeah,
great.
I like the YouTube version. It's good.
Theirs is the first version I ever heard
Is that right?
growing
Wow.
up. Yeah, it was U2's. So, moving on to number 9. Ringo made the top 9, and that's "Don't Pass Me By."
Oh,
It's
wow.
one of the few songs that Ringo wrote. It's a Richard Starkey track. And actually, I believe it dates back to the early days, in the early 60s, because I think there's a BBC interview or something where they talk about, they say, Ringo, why don't you sing that the car crash song or whatever they called it, the "Don't Pass Me By" song. And he's like, "Oh no, it's not done yet." And so this song, I think, is the oldest song on the album in terms of when it was written. And Ringo does play piano on it as well.
Yes.
And I've seen Ringo live one time, and this is the song where the keyboard player steps away and Ringo goes to the stage and he plays the intro chords, and then he walks to the center of the stage and finishes the song. But I've always loved it. It's kind of one of those songs where, the music, you're kind of like marching along to it. Just a fun song. Just, you were in a car crash and you lost your hair.
I know.
It's just about, he'll love her no matter what kind of thing. So it's a fun song. It's Ringo, but surprisingly, it did make my top 10.
I'm glad it's up there high because I think it's an underrated song. And I watched the video, I think it was yesterday, of Ringo, exactly what you said in concert. He starts out on the piano, then he gets up, has the mic, and he's center stage. And
yeah,
the crowd loved it, man.
And he still does it, yeah, because it's Ringo on an instrument that's not the drums. And so, that's cool to see.
Good stuff. My number 9 is Obla Di Obla Da. This may not be a popular take, but I've always liked the song, and it gets a lot of radio play. I just like the storytelling of Desmond and Molly, the little love story there, and they settle into domestic life and they have children, and at the end they hit you with that. And if you want some fun, take Obla Di Obla Da.
Yeah,
Could be a little LSD reference or whatever, but it's a cool song.
Yeah.
And I haven't heard it from you yet, so you must think pretty highly of it too.
I do, yeah. It'll show up here directly.
Okay.
But it is a great one. It's still a McCartney standard when he's singing live.
Yeah.
So number 8, you just mentioned it as well. Rocky Raccoon. We were talking about McCartney's vocalizations and songwriting. It's kind of his dip into country music. Usually you hear it from Ringo, like with "Don't Pass Me By" or something like "What Goes On."
Yeah.
Which, of course, there's, "What Goes On" is a Lennon McCartney song, so they knew how to write that kind of music. But This is kind of the first, full-on storytelling country song that the Beatles are really doing. Again, the intro, he's like, some kind of sing songs at the beginning.
Yeah.
To love the young boy named Rocky Raccoon. It's like a Western. It could have been like a little like silent movie kind of thing, like a 15-minute short. And it's a great story. I always loved it when I was little. And actually, I remember specifically, before I knew the song, I was behind a vehicle, and their license plate said McGill. It was MAGILL. And I remember specifically saying that would be a good name in a Beatles song without even knowing
that
this song existed. And it's like I had no idea, because I remember I told a friend of mine who knew the Beatles, and they said, "Isn't that in a Beatles song?" And I said, "Oh, I don't know." And then I heard the song. I was like, "That's unbelievable that I got that connection." So that's always stuck out to me.
You were tapping into their
Yeah,
whatever, you know?
what kind of names they would use in a song?
Yeah.
They used the name McGill.
That's cool. Yeah, I have Rocky Raccoon pretty high on my list. So excuse me, my number 8 is Back in the USSR. Another song that Paul does a lot in his shows, I believe. This was done without Ringo, from what I understand. Got a little Chuck Berry influence in there with Back in the USA, which is a tune he had. The Beach Boys with the California Girls and the Ukraine Girls really knocked me out. Woo! You know, it's just it's a mishmash of things that work out. It opens with that jet landing on the runway. You know, it's a spoof on the Russian spy returning home from the United States. I'm back in the USSR. You don't know how lucky you are. Back in the US, back in the USSR. I just a great song.
Yeah.
Has to be there.
Well, let's just push this to number 7 because that's where I've got it.
Okay.
Back in the USSR, kind of build off that. Yeah, the Beach Boys without Brian Wilson were all in India at the same time that the Beatles were, and I think Mike Love helped with this song and like the harmony with it, because you do hear, you know, in the background they're going woo, like it's like the Beach Boys, like the early Beach Boys.
Yes.
It's a killer song. You know, the sound effect is great. It's a great way to open the album.
It is.
It's still a live staple. And it's amazing that he's still singing the song, and the USSR has been dissolved for since the 1990 was when the wall came down. So, you know, for 30 plus years now, there's been no such place as that, but they're still going back to it. And like you said, all sorts of references to the 50s music and, you know, the early 60s Beach Boys. It's a great rock and roll song.
Yep. I agree. Number 7 for me is Revolution 1, which you had earlier. Like I said before, the single Revolution is one of my favorite Beatles tracks. This slowed down acoustic version, not as strong in my opinion, but it's still one of the better songs on this album for me. And then in the addition of what are they saying in the you mentioned it, like not ooh,
Shooby-doo-wop.
Shooby-doo-wop. That stuff doesn't bother me. You know, it's the vibe of the song. So there's a video of it too where they're doing this song and they throw that Shooby-doo-bop in there too. I've seen that. But I love the song. It's number 7. Pretty strong showing.
Number 6, you just mentioned it earlier, Obla Di Obla Da. I think Paul learned it from a guy who, that was his expression, was, you know, like, you know, how are you, he asked him like, how are you feeling? He'd be like, Obla Di Obla Da, life goes on, bro. And Paul thought that was so great. And so he put it in a song. And I know this is one of those songs that really caused a lot of tension with the group because they thought it was a silly song and they were doing hundreds of takes on it. I think they even mentioned it in the Get Back movie. They were like, you could tell it was still kind of a chip on their shoulder, you know, 6 months, 7 months later after they recorded it. But and you know, it's unfortunate it was never a huge single or anything like that.
No,
it's got that sing along feel to it, with, you know, all of them singing in the background. It's kind of got like the Tex-Mex with the trumpets and everything like that. But I've always loved it since I was young, and it holds a spot for me.
Definitely. That was number 6, right?
Yeah.
My number 6 is a beautiful song called I Will. I love this song. It's a perfect, concise little love song, maybe under 2 minutes, melodic as heck. And I just love the lyrics. They're simple, sweet, and right to the money. It's who knows how long I love you. You know I love you still. Will you wait? Will I wait a lonely lifetime? If you want me to, I will. There's not much to them as far as, you know, big words and this and that, but it's a straight to the heart love song, and Paul does it beautifully. It almost made my top 5, but it's just outside number 6.
Yeah, beautiful song.
Absolutely
really
gorgeous.
All right, top 5. You mentioned it a while back. I've always loved the piano intro to it. It's Martha, My Dear.
Oh wow, that's high. Yep.
It's really high. I've always loved it. like you said, it's about his sheepdog who, you know, there's pictures of Paul with his sheepdog, and of course, you know, on first listen, you would never know that, or if you didn't know it at all, it's just a love song. Great vocals by Paul. I love the piano in it. It's just one of those catchy little songs. One of those that I always wish I could play on piano. If I ever invest in playing piano, that's one I want to learn.
Yeah. Great one. Number 5 for me is Blackbird. Again, this is a song that can be interpreted as support of the Black civil rights struggle in the United States. Take these broken wings and learn to fly. You're only waiting for this moment to arrive. Just great melody. I know he plays it in his shows as well. And it had to be high on my list. It's just a terrific song for Paul. Love it.
Yeah, number 4 is Blackbird for me. And again, at one point it was probably number 1. It's one, of course. I mean, I've got my guitar over here on the floor, and it's one that if I'm trying to figure out what to play, I'm just fingering Blackbird until I figure out something else to play. So it's like one of those first songs that you learn if you play guitar.
Yeah,
try to finger pick. He still does it live all the time, usually back to back with Here Today, which is the song he wrote for John Lennon. Like you said, it could be about the 1968 civil rights strikes and the riots and all that stuff that was all over the news at that point. And it's been used even up till today in different campaigns and things for civil rights policies and things like that. So I mean, it's a universal song. It's beautiful. Everybody's done it as a cover too.
You can stick it in like a movie or a TV show and in the background, and it works in context of what their storyline's about.
And it's a beautiful version also by Crosby, Stills and Nash. They would do it often live, and Graham Nash still does it in his acoustic sets. I've seen him do it. It's really pretty.
Nice.
Yeah.
That would fit Graham Nash perfectly.
Yeah.
My number 4 is Julia. You mentioned this before, a song written by John about his mother who abandoned him, he says, twice. Once at age 5 when he went to live with his aunt, and then she was killed in an auto accident when John was just 17. So he's pouring his heart out in abandonment and telling his mother how much he loves her, misses her. And, he starts it out with, half of what I say is meaningless, but I say it just to reach you, Julia.
Mm-hmm.
And then he uses parts of, this is the part I like, where he's taking different metaphors. He's using parts of the earth to communicate, oceans and clouds and wind and the seashell smile. And her hair is a floating sky, shimmering, glimmering in the sun. So I sing this song of love for Julia. Beautiful song.
Yeah.
Real high on my list.
Yeah. I don't blame you. I mean, it's a great song. All right. The big 3.
Yep.
Yeah. Another go-to song for me on guitar when I play, it's Mother Nature's Son.
Wow.
I've always loved it. Always have loved that song. I thought it was so cool when I learned how to play it on guitar. It was one of those first songs where I learned it, and it was one of those where it sounded like it wasn't just playing chords, you can kind of fake it. It was like one of the first songs where I played it on guitar and it sounded like the song, so like, this is actually what it sounds like. And that was really cool. Yeah. But even just the lyrics, just beautiful singing by Paul, born a poor old country boy, Mother Nature's son.
Yeah.
And then, later on in the 70s, John Denver does a killer version of it as well. And I remember when I would play that song on guitar growing up for my mom, she didn't realize it was a Beatles song because she was a big John Denver fan.
Oh.
And she always wondered like why I was singing it differently than John Denver sings it. I'm like, well, it's a Beatles song. And so that was kind of neat too, to show her the original and she showed me John Denver's.
Yeah.
But it's a great acoustic ballad. The whistling is good and the humming. It's a great song.
I like it. I haven't heard it in a while, so I haven't really elevated it to where you have it. I didn't stick with me. When I went back and revisited it, I did enjoy it, I have to say. I like Paul's vocal on it too, and I like the playing. Number 3 is one you had a ways back, Dear Prudence. You went into the story about Mia Farrow's sister Prudence, who was on the retreat, and John's trying to convince her to come out of her room. She turned into kind of a recluse there. I don't know whether it was drugs or just the where she was in India, and she didn't want to mingle with the other people or whatever, but she took maybe the meditation a little too serious. Whatever it was. The finger picking guitar style that Donovan taught him. I had mentioned that down here too. Glad you mentioned it. Prudence, won't you come out to play? The sun is up, the sky is blue. It's beautiful, and so are you, dear Prudence.
Yeah.
Short, sweet, simple, but gorgeous. So
Yeah.
high on my list.
All right, top 2, and I think we've got pretty close. I know you mentioned number 2 earlier, and again, it's one of the shorter songs on the album, but I think it's beautiful, and it's "I Will" by McCartney.
Yeah. Great song.
And I know he did it on the back in the US tour, like I think in 2002. I think is when he started pulling out a lot of the deeper cuts by the Beatles. And I think that was the first tour where the majority of the songs were Beatles songs, and just one of those pretty songs. It sounds very simple, but in terms of like the chord structure, it's a lot of chords. Like he's changing up the chords almost every other word, so his hands are constantly moving around on the guitar. But yeah, it's like 1 minute and 50 seconds. The way that it ends, make it easy to be near you, for the things you do endear you to me. Oh, I will. I love how that ends. And then at the end, the "I will," like he goes up.
Yes.
And then it's just a beautiful, perfect little love song. There was no need for it to be longer. It's a classic McCartney silly love song, if you will.
Yeah, I'm glad you had it even higher than me. I mean, I appreciate that song so much. It's a great one. Very good. My number 2 is one we mentioned a while back. I know people are going to take shots at me because I have it so high, but I love it. Rocky Raccoon.
Wow.
I absolutely love this song that, like you mentioned, somewhere in the hills of North Dakota, there lived a boy named Rocky Raccoon, that country vibe he's got.
Yeah.
And then they got the ragtime piano thrown in there, the Old West feel, the honky tonk piano, and the storyline, it's like a love triangle sort of. You got Rocky, you got Dan and Lil, and then a drunken doctor comes in. It's just a cool song. And then how they settled things in the Old West, they went out and had a duel, and that's pretty much what happened here.
I love to. I forgot to mention, and I think it was the first time that Lennon had played harmonica on a Beatles song since the early days as well. And I think it was the last Beatles song where he played harmonica on it, kind of toward the end.
Yeah.
Because Lennon, of course, those early Beatles songs, Lennon plays harmonica on a ton of them, which was not like other pop groups.
No.
So, yeah, I forgot all about that too. But yeah, I mean, it's a great story song.
It is.
Yeah.
All right, we're down to the big one. I think we have the same song here.
We have the same song. I'm sure a lot of people have the same song. It's George Harrison's masterpiece, his possibly the greatest song he ever wrote.
I think so. Up there.
"While My Guitar Gently Weeps." I mean, what do you say about it? I mean, it's beautiful, no matter how you record it. Of course, there's a huge solo by Clapton, his best friend. And actually, to be honest, probably my preferred version of the song is from the Love album, and how it was remixed for that with the orchestra. Just the line, "As I'm sitting here doing nothing but aging." I think that's one of the most beautiful lines. And the way that George sings it, it's just so beautiful. And
yeah,
I mean, it's I don't even know what kind of genre you would put it in. It's not really rock, even though there's a killer solo. I mean, I don't know. It's a perfect song. It really showed that George was above and beyond where they were putting him on the albums. And I mean, George was a young man. He was 25, I think, when this song was written. So
yeah,
it's a perfect George Harrison song.
I agree. To me, it's by far the best song on the album. That's why it's at number 1 for me.
Yeah.
And I think what he's writing about a lot is the disharmony within the band, and he's searching for spiritual meaning and combining the two. He's looking for universal love, and I don't know. He's just searching, and he wants more harmony within the band. The cracks were already starting to show as far as George is concerned. He's not getting the amount of songs on each album that he wanted. We knew that, and it shows up big time in Let It Be, where he wants out.
He quits. Yeah.
He quits, and he's got so much material backlog that his first album is just immense. He blew those guys off the map, and that had to shock everybody.
Yeah.
At that time, it's like, where's this guy been? Why weren't his songs as as dynamic and in the forefront as they should have been?
Yeah.
Because the Lennon-McCartney train was rolling, baby, and they weren't going to stop it. I mean, egos have a lot to do with being in a rock and roll band. So,
especially when you have three talents like John, Paul, and George.
Now, maybe George evolved as a major talent. Maybe in the beginning he was just tagging along, and he didn't branch out until the mid '60s and beyond. But
he was like the little brother, I guess, in the group.
He was the youngest, right? And he was just happy to be playing guitar for these guys. And then once he dabbled into the songwriting and he found out he was good at it, I mean, geez.
Yeah.
You gotta give him credit for hanging in there as long as he did, I think.
Yeah, agreed.
I think the timing was right, though. I mean, you finish the '60s out as a group, and then by the time 1970 comes, everybody's doing their own thing, and they all had great work, solo stuff, as far as I'm concerned.
Yep.
And it epitomizes what they're about. I mean, John's first record is that's John. Plastic Ono Band, come on. Paul's doing his thing. He's more melodic and sort of simplified, just music,
but does it all himself.
He does it all himself. He's multi-talented. I got so much more respect for Paul McCartney by watching that Let It Be documentary.
Yeah,
it really upped his game, in my opinion, because he's
a true genius. Yeah, he's a true genius.
He seemed to be in the studio more than anybody else, and he was pleading with these guys to do this and do that. He tried to hold that band together, and he can play anything too, which is fantastic.
Yeah,
and his voice is underrated because he can sing anything too. He can go hardcore if he wants to. He can go easy listening, and he can blend in the background and do his thing too. And don't underestimate his bass playing on While My Guitar Gently Weeps. It's awesome.
Yeah.
So I'm glad we hit on that as number one. So I kind of thought you would go there too. I love the fact that you had I Will at number two, because I had it high up as well.
Looks like we matched on 2, 3, 4. We matched on seven tracks. So that's a third of the tracks.
7 out of 30.
Yeah. Almost a third. But yeah, this was fun.
Enjoyed it. Sam and I are going to get together and maybe I don't know whether we're going to do more Beatles stuff or other artists that we have in common, but we're going to tackle this again, another album, and dissect it 30, or not 30, but we're going to go worst to best. It's going to be again 30, but it'll be a shorter running time because it'll be half the amount of songs pretty much. But thanks a lot, Sam, for coming on. Appreciate it. It's great idea. Everybody can take their shots at us. Leave in the comments what you think we missed on, or where we're off base, or if you agree with us, tell us. We'd love to hear some.
But we love the album. We do love the album.
We don't discount the album. I just think they have stronger, more concise albums throughout their catalog. But this has grown on me too. I'm glad I re-listened to it. I'm glad we did this project.
Me too.
Because it opened my eyes to some songs that I was discounting before, and overall, fantastic. What can you say about the Beatles? They're one of a kind, top of the line. So remember, sub Sam St. John, check his channel out. What do you had, Sam? About 229 or something? Sub.
Yeah, I'm almost right at 230.
We need to get a push to 300. And then we'll go from there. But this guy does great work. He sings on some of his videos as well. I know he put out a great tribute to Ronnie Spector yesterday. So keep it going. Thanks for watching, everyone, and leave us some comments. Take care.
Thank you.
Later.